So, Terapagos is going to be the most powerful legendary the series has ever seen, topping even Arceus in how broken this thing's stat line is going to be, and just how strong this thing's signature move is going to be. So, strap in, we're going to get talking about this thing, because it's going to be a monster, and I freaking love it. With a new ability that brings back the original Protean that not only changes its base typing, but also its Terra type, and a signature move that's always going to be super effective just as the Legends Plate Arceus Judgment was in Legends Arceus, to changing its type every single turn to a random typing, as well as being the key to saving Kieran from Dokutaro's toxic chain clutches in DLC 2, potentially opening the way to DLC 3's legendary Terra Raid system, much like Dynamax Adventures was back in Sword and Shield. This thing is going to be the most impactful legendary of the series, not even just of Scarlet and Violet. So let's go over everything we know about this thing and everything we know it's going to have to do, because there's a pretty big amount of this. Game Freak dropped way too many hints, that's why they've not been releasing any trailers, because they know they done screwed up with how much info they gave us. So let's get everything started with what we know about our new favorite little turtle friend, Terapagos. Because I think I've also cracked what typing this thing is going to be, and it's not what you expect. But before we get onto all the craziness that's going to be Terapagos and its insane Terrastall states and its paradox connections, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more, get a bunch more videos like this coming out in the future, some with significantly more detail than this one, but we'll see you guys then. But onto the Terapagos stuff. We know this is going to be a Pokemon that is appearing in Area 0, so we do have confirmation Area 0 is getting bigger. They have not been subtle about this at all, that even since the beginning of the game, Area 0 hasn't been, somewhere you can make a picnic. And this is probably because they realize if they made you able to picnic, you could probably bug your way into the expanded zone of Area 0. Getting everything to despawn and respawn could mess with things. That's why you can't picnic there after you go there the first time. There's technically 3 forms for Terapagos, as we have its small standard unarmored form, where it just looked like a weird turtle without its shell, its second Terrastall form, where it has its big shell circle like a giant dreamcatcher, and then its final Terrastall state, which is the giant egg-shaped king of the world with the giant crown that is inside the Scarlet and Violet books. Even though we know that Kieran Dokutaro is going to be the main villain of the Indigo Disc, this is actually going to be the big end battle boss that you're going to have to fight to break Kieran free. And its stat line I've pretty much able to figure out, because just based on all the previous games, we don't care for defensive legendaries. We don't want bulky defensive legendaries. They're boring. We want that DPS. So this thing's probably gonna have a stat line maybe similar to something like Rayquaza, or something similar like to Mewtwo, but a little bit better. As for its 3 forms, its base form, we're gonna go over that typing later, but its second Terrastall type is actually gonna be all typings in one. So it's gonna get same type attack bonus on every single thing. It's gonna have no weakness, and gonna make it way better than Shedinja. As Shedinja's 1 HP makes it susceptible to any form of residual damage like burn, this thing just flat out has no weakness, while it's able to bypass your Terra typings to strike you at your weakest. It gets all the advantages of having a typing and none of the disadvantages. It's literally like Delta Stream Mega Rayquaza all over again. And the reason why we know this thing is gonna have an anti-Terra type focus, while also itself being a very Terra type focus, is because back in Sword and Shield, there was an anti-Dynamax move, anti-Gigantamax move as well. The Dynamax Cannon and the Behemoth Blade, Behemoth Bash. Nothing like that exists in the game at present, probably because they realized making an anti-Terra busting thing would just kind of go in the face of what they're doing with the big legendary. Plus, we haven't seen Miraidon or Koraidon's Terrastall forms yet either, so they're gonna have a special interaction with that. In lore, this thing is also going to be the origin point of all the Paradox Pokemon, while being itself the Time Machine. There's a big thing we're going to be working on in a little bit about how Paradox Pokemon aren't what we think they are, that rather than prehistoric and futuristic counterparts of existing Pokemon, there's something altogether much more sinister and much more twisted, so stay tuned for that. And it's 2 Terra forms, the Terrastall state and the Terrastall form. Its Terrastall form is going to be when you can assign whatever Terra type you want to give it this thing, so you can have it be Terapagos Rock, Terapagos Ice, Terapagos Steel, which is also going to coincide with its natural ability of being able to change its base and Terra type at will to whatever type of move you're using, in conjunction with its Terrastall state being the one that has no weaknesses, but all the benefits. We're going to need to go and find Terapagos after Kieran gets body jacked by Dokutaro,
because it's going to hold the key to saving him. It's going to be the only thing that has the power to rival it, as of course Ogerpon is going to be weak to Dokotaro. With him and his new Dipplin evolution and the Loyal 3 on his side, you're going to need a new legendary because Miraidon and Koraidon don't really want to fight anymore. Which leads you to going into Area Zero's new expanded zone with Miss Briar. But this does present some issues, as even though we will fight Terapagos' Ultra Super Terra State form, we're probably not going to be able to use it. Much like how they did with Eternamax Eternatus and ever since Generation 7 concluded, Ultra Necrozma, they have not been opposed to creating forms that just don't last forever, and even Pokemon that you yourself can't use. Again, Eternamax Eternatus, where his stats are absolutely cracked out, but you can't use it at all. And that's, I think, where Terapagos is going to end up, where you're going to be fighting Titan Terapagos. Everything gets a bit odd that you have 4 protagonists of the game, you, Arven, Nimona, and Penny. And Terra raids. There's 4 people. You're gonna fight massive Terra HP Titan Terapagos, and you're gonna fight it, you're gonna beat it, because we did have Titan-esque battles in Area Zero with the Way Home, fighting against the Professor, and against all of Ogerpon's Terra Mask forms in the Teal Mask. It would be a nice rhyming scheme if they do the same thing again for each of the areas, where you fight Titan Dipplin evolution, and then to go and save him, you need to go fight Titan Terapagos. So while this thing is going to be insane, it's not going to be quite as insane as we think it is. The biggest thing in favor of this thing not being nearly that insane is Game Freak is very, very aware that players don't like super OP, ridiculous legendaries. Even though we enjoy using them in solo play, when it comes to competitive, which is something they have been pushing far more aggressively as of late, as it's a long-term player engagement, legendaries are very, very toxic for this. This is why they actually nerfed Zacian Crowned, Zacian Hero of Many Battles, Zamazenta Crowned and Zamazenta Hero of Many Battles, and Cresselia, while buffing older Pokemon that were just kind of not great, like Shiftry, giving it Wind Rider as a new ability, and changing Empoleon's Defiant into competitive. While even before the game released, they knocked off 10 base stat points from each of the Ruinous Quartet. So the mega insane Terapagos of insane Terra Stab stats, insane stat total that tops Arceus, and just Protean as it was before for its Terra typing, is probably going to be something you can use only in single player mode, or even it's going to be locked just to the giant Titan Terapagos battle. More likely in actual battles when you are piloting it, it's going to have access to an ability that gives it stab on everything, but it's not quite normal base 1.5 times stab. Instead, something more akin to 1.2 times power that Ogerpon's masks give it. Something that makes it able to use all typings decently effective and makes them all worthwhile to have, but not giving it a life orb on top of stab on top of literally everything else at the same time, because even if it gets a signature move that is always super effective against everything, and it's 60 base power, that's always stab. That's an insane power move. That is over 200 base stat points in power on everything. You can't resist it, you can't switch into it, and it's going to be physical and special. You can't dodge this thing. There's nothing you can do. That's probably not going to happen because they realized we don't like crazy, insane stuff like that. It's really toxic. That's why it's going to be a Terra Buster more than being a Terraform itself, as it's going to be able to bypass Terra typings and strike the base typing of Pokemon. In competitive, we've always had to respect every potential Terra typing, which has been a bit of an off-putting for everyone, as there's so many different things that possibilities could be. With open team sheets, you can see what things are going to be, and okay, you're going to be terastallizing that, you're going to be terastallizing this, you've got this. We have to respect it. Every single potential for that. With the ability to bypass terastallizing and strike the base typing, the soft and squishy inside, you no longer need to respect the potential for terastallize, but a Pokemon can be more flexible now. But they're not without in-building weaknesses into Terapagos itself. Going through the entire game, there is one typing in particular, other than Psychic, they've been really hard focusing. Rock. It's no accident that Ogerpon's one mask that's an outlier is the Cornerstone mask. The big 3 typings of Pokemon have always been Fire, Grass, and Water, with the main 4th typing always being Electric because of Pikachu. So, unofficially, there are 4 starter typings, which is why it's a bit weird that Ogerpon's 4th mask is not Electric. It's the 4 starter typings, with, of course, the natural Teal mask being the natural Grass typing, and then there's the Cornerstone mask, as well as Brassus, the first gym leader, the intended first gym leader at the very least. His ace is Sudowoodo. Even though it's a grass-type trainer, Sudowoodo is naturally a rock-type. And then, coming full circle, your first Titan Rock Cloth. And the final member of the Elite Four, the Champion. Her ace team has Terra Rock Glamora. There's a weird focus on rock typings this gen. Now, that could be because, of course, terastallizing is very crystal, and rocks are made of crystals, which could be a nice little nod, as I'm a geologist myself, and that appeals to me. But it's weird that there's so many rock-type things just being thrown around everywhere. It's hard to call something like that an accident when there is nothing else that gets that same degree of focus in-game. And then there is the terastallized, non-Terra colorless 19th typing that Terapagos is going to have access to. This is going to be its special in-battle Terastall state that is involving the 19th Terra type. The reason why it's going to be typeless is that it's going to be every typing and no typing at the same time. Which on paper sounds really awesome, having no weakness. That's great. The problem with this is, with no weakness, there's no resistance, there's no immunity, there's no ability to come into things and just block stuff. Especially when this thing is going to be a dedicated attacker, it's not really going to be able to do much. We often forget, even though Pokemon do really enjoy hitting stuff for super effective damage, we also enjoy resistances, and oftentimes what make Pokemon more than their offensive profile is actually their defensive one. That's why a number of Pokemon throughout history have been fantastic just on defense. They switch into things very well with their massive number of resistances outweighing their ability to outdo damage. Now, yes, some Pokemon have always been fantastic because they're amazing offense blitzers, but others have, and invariably even more, have been better because they can take hits far better. With no resistances, it's going to completely lose that. Paired up with this thing is likely going to be Rock and Psychic typing. The reason why Psychic is that Psychic is a typing that, despite its prominence back in Generation 1 with Generation 1 Mewtwo Amnesia, on its own is a very poor offensive profile in terms of typing. It hits only Poison, Fighting, which are generally relatively uncommon typings, while having a number of weaknesses, and especially when paired up with the Rock typing as a sub-typing, it is tied with two other typings, well, type combinations, as the single most weaknesses of any type combination in the series, with 7 weaknesses. The other two typings are Psychic and Grass, and Grass and Ice. This would encourage terastallizing Terapagos, using its very Terra-focused mechanics to its advantage. Unlike, say, Ogerpon, where it's some cases better to keep its base typing and not terastallize it, as Grass does have some very good defensive synergy with many of its type combinations. With Terapagos, Psychic Rock has nothing. There's nothing this thing offers, other than maybe doing well against poison types, especially. Hence why it's going to be the answer to Dokutaro when it body jacks Kieran. But that's all we've got today, everyone. Honestly, I hope I'm wrong about all of this, but don't forget to leave the comments below to what you think is going to be going on. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more, and check out the rest of the things we do around here. I will see you all next time. Let's rock and roll it.